finally arriving, it's time to start thinking about how we can put a spark into conversations about successful relationships of all kinds. To do so, women may need the confidence to have important conversations with their significant others and/or doctors. Merck is launching an educational campaign called Rule the Real Talk with Dr. Logan Levkoff, relationship and sex expert, and Dr. Rebecca Brightman, OB/GYN and women's health expert, to help women spark important conversations about sexual health, including birth control options, with both their partners and their doctors. Joining us today are Dr. Levkoff and Dr. Brightman. Dr. Levkoff, the Merck survey showed less than 10% of women make the first move when it comes to dating. Is this due to the traditional gender role, or are women unsure of how to ask a man out?
I think that's a great question. I think it's about making the first move, or in this case, lack thereof, about all aspects of relationships and sexual and reproductive health. So, I mean, look, do issues of gender roles, pop culture messages, do all of these things impact how we speak up and if we speak up and whether or not we make the first move? Yes, absolutely. But I think the idea, the reason why I'm so excited about this Rule the Real Talk campaign is because it gives us an opportunity to tell women that we get the relationships that we demand. So if we don't speak up about our sexual or reproductive health needs or just what we want out of a relationship, we're never going to get it.
Thank you. Dr. Brightman, in this day and age, having unprotected sex is downright scary. Yet, according to the survey, 26% of women will have sex on the first date, but less than 65% of them do not keep condoms at home. Why should women always keep protection handy, even at home?
Women should always be prepared, and this is something that they should, think about. But also, if they can somehow give more thought to their sexual health, and that's what this survey of over 2,000 women really looked at, the fact that about 31% of women really aren't considering their sexual health. So women really need to be prepared and forearmed and plan in advance and think about what their lifestyle needs are and talk to their healthcare provider and think, gosh, what are my needs in terms of contraception? Do I need to think about something that may be appropriately for me to take on a daily basis, or are there potentially options that are not required to be taken daily that may be more appropriate, so they would perhaps afford more spontaneity for me?
Thank you. Dr. Levkoff, almost a quarter of women in the survey felt uncomfortable discussing sexual history with someone they are sleeping with. How should women approach the sexual history conversation with their partner?
I think it's pretty astounding that so many women still aren't speaking up about their sexual needs with the people they're actually physically, sexually intimate with. The first thing I think it's important for all of us to recognize is that women are entitled to their sexuality, entitled to certain desires, needs, and wants. And while we tackle and succeed at all other aspects of our life, for some reason we put our sexuality and reproductive health on the back burner. So the first thing is to recognize that it is a priority. It is part of our overall health. And if we want to be fully functioning, healthy, holistic beings, we have to take sexuality into consideration. But I think it's also about acknowledging the discomfort. I think we're often afraid to say that something makes us uncomfortable or something makes us feel insecure. But it happens to be a great jumping off point for a conversation to look at the person who's important to you in life and say, I'm sort of uncomfortable saying this, but I know it's really important and I care about this relationship. So, and fill in the blank really with whatever it is that you want to say.
Thank you. Dr. Brightman, not only do 24% of women feel uncomfortable discussing their sexual history with their doctor, 29% rely on their doctor to initiate discussions about birth control. How can women feel more at ease discussing birth control, and why should they be the ones to initiate the discussion?
Well, for me as a healthcare practitioner, I really try to make a point of going through a checklist in my mind with my patients, and not only to update their medical history and medications, but also talk about where they are with respect to their lives, their work, their relationships, to help them best determine what are the most appropriate means of contraception. So I ask pointed questions. I think the survey points to the fact that 29% of women, unless they're actually asked, will not initiate these discussions on their own. So I try to do it with my patients, but I think given this information, women should really be made aware that they have a limited amount of time that they can spend with their physicians, and they should make a list perhaps beforehand of questions they may have, because on the spot they may not be really ready to ask these questions, or they may be too embarrassed, or they may forget. So I think to be prepared in advance is always helpful.
Thank you. Dr. Levkoff, what advice can you offer women on dating?
That's such a big question. So I think that for women, first, I want women to give themselves the freedom to really think about what it is that they want out of a partnership, and to be really honest and clear about that. And that isn't just about what they want out of a partner. That's what they want out of their sex lives or their reproductive health choices. You know, the surveys show that 55% of women aren't talking to significant others about birth control, and that 1/3 of women aren't talking about sexual health needs. And that means there's a huge gap, and not just a huge knowledge gap, but the implications for the relationship are that you're not going to get what you want or need. So my advice for dating is to think about what you want, recognize and feel empowered that you have these decisions to make, and that they're important decisions, and not to play games, to be honest and forthcoming about what it is that you want, because if we play games, whether it's about our health or someone else's, then there's a winner and a loser, and that never works well for a relationship.
Thank you. Dr. Brightman, what advice do you have for women regarding sex and protection?
Well, I think women need to be prepared. They need to, own this, so to speak. And, if they see that, they're going to be intimate with somebody, be prepared. And if they have questions in terms of what is the best way to protect themselves, they should speak to their physicians and not be embarrassed to do so. I think these subjects and these conversations can be awkward and sometimes off-putting, but I think it's really important for women to realize that OBGYNs and women's healthcare providers discuss these things all the time. We sort of feel like we've heard it all, so the biggest piece of advice is, be comfortable. Don't be intimidated. Come to us with your questions, because we want to help you. We want to work as a partner on this so we can help you make the most appropriate decision for you.
Thank you. That's all I have for today. I'd like to thank you both for this opportunity for the interview.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.